there is no future with Hamas. We support the future of the Palestinians. And we want to work to make sure that we have a viable options. And that's why this trip was originally planned before the attack by Hamas to promote normalization. Senator Graham talked about it, the partnership between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Israel and the United States. Hamas is trying to stop that. They're not going to stop it. The future is in the normalization between the countries of this region, and we are committed to make sure we get that back on track. But immediate issue is to make sure Hamas can never do this again.
The barbarism that we saw on October the 7th cannot stand. Israel has a right to exist. Israel has a right to defend itself and not be threatened on a daily basis, right on its border, by a terrorist organization whose main mission is wiping it off the map. And so we stand with Israel. We do have Israel's back. And we just want the region to know, too, that there are forces in this region that want to take us backward and not forward. The kind of barbarism we saw from Hamas's attack is something that we haven't seen in a really, really long time. And it's really important for everyone to understand that the only people who benefit from Hamas's activities in this region are their enablers in Tehran. And if we want to see not only this region, but the entire world be a safer place, a more secure place, a more stable place, organizations like Hamas, terrorist organizations, have to be eliminated.
You've got to understand that Hamas hates the Jewish people and cares nothing about the Palestinian people. That's why they will use them as shields against their weapon systems. That's why they will throw them in the firing line. We have to deal with that terror. We have to help the state of Israel degrade and ultimately destroy Hamas. And we also have to stand, the United States, as a bulwark against the expansion of this conflict into other areas. Those nations that are trying to seize an opportunity should know that they would be seizing something less than opportunity. They would be seizing a very, very bitter outcome. And importantly, we're here to remind the whole world community that we have an obligation to those innocents in Palestine, those innocents rather in Gaza, and those other innocents across the globe. And we had a very productive session yesterday with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and we urged him to join the international community to provide the resources that is necessary to allow Palestinians in Gaza to flee the control of Hamas and be sustained until Hamas is defeated. Together we are here, all of us, to stand with Israel.
I too want to thank Senator Graham for bringing us together in a bipartisan show of support for the one democracy in the Middle East, Israel. Before leaving on this trip, I met with the families of some of the hostages that Hamas has taken. And today, all of us met with a group of families of hostages. And I cannot stop thinking about a little 3-year-old girl named Abigail, who has been taken hostage by Hamas. This is her picture, which was given to me both in Washington and I brought on this trip and met more of her relatives today. Her older sister and brother, ages 6 and 9, hid for 14 hours in a closet to escape Hamas. Her mother was murdered, and her father was murdered as he was trying to rush little Abigail away. What kind of people commit such atrocities? This is not a close call. This is a clear case. Hamas is a terrorist group, and we must do all that we can to support Israel in its quest to eliminate Hamas.
There's no moral equivalence here. There's no moral equivalence. Every civilian death in a war is horrible. But what we're seeing and what we saw with regard to Hamas was an attempt to actually make more civilian deaths as bloody and vicious as possible. That's not what Israel does. That's not what Israel's doing right now. It's not what the United States does. It's what terrorist groups like Hamas and ISIS do.
We have seen the brutalization of civilians, the butchering of children. We have seen the deaths of civilians and children that are of Palestinian descent, of Israelis. We have seen pain and hurt. This region is sinking in a agony. And why? What ignited this pain in this region that is rippling as far to my country, where threats against mosques and synagogues and shuls and violence against Muslims in my country and Jews is on the rise? What ignited this hate and horror that is rippling across the world? A terrorist organization, Hamas. They lit the match, they threw the grenade in the most gruesome ways to see Israelis today, soldiers today, with their voices choked with emotion, saying they have never seen this kind of brutality and hate from a terrorist organization, more like Daesh, more like ISIS. They're not freedom fighters. They have chained so many, sinking like an anchor in depths of grief and hurt and horror. There can be no moral equivocating. We are here right now. All of us in this room, we are gathered here because of Hamas and what they have done.